my name's Joel, and we are on my podcast, Party Like a Rockstar. It's funny that I still have to read that. I'm looking down. Today's episode is brought to you by Misha's Kind Foods. They're an LA-based small business making the world's finest non-dairy cheese spreads on the market today. Delicious and healthy, made from a cashew and almond milk and blended with various locally sourced fresh herbs, vegetables, and spices. No vegetable oils, soy, fillers, starches, or nutritional yeasts. It's lactose-free, paleo, keto, kosher Parev, and 100% vegan. Be kind to the planet, animals, and your body. And HollywoodSauce.com, bringing you the very best in hot sauces, barbecue sauces, salsas, marinades, and other fiery foods. My guest today is Jonny Polonsky. How are you doing, bud?
Feel all right.
Cool. All right, I'm going to tell you about yourself. Let's see how we do here, all right? Jonny began writing, recording, and self-releasing homemade cassettes as a teenager under the name The Amazing Jonny Polonsky. By doing this, he was able to reach artists like Mark Ribot, Xander Schloss, Reeves Gabrels, and Frank Black. In 1992, Jonny played at the famous CBGB's with his band. His band, Mark Ribot, from Tom Waits and Elvis Costello fame, Sebastian Steinberg from Soul Coughing, and Sim Kane from the Rollins Band on drums. In 1994, Frank Black, the singer of the Pixies, produced a demo for him. Based off of that demo, Rick Rubin signed him to his label American Recordings. The album, Hi, My Name Is Jonny, would be produced by Jonny and mixed by the great Brendan O'Brien. He would go on to work with Maynard, James Keenan, Audioslave, Mark Lanigan, Neil Diamond, Johnny Cash, and the Dixie Chicks, just to name a few. Jonny, I'm looking forward to getting into this with you. All I've listened to this week has been your music. If not mistaken, today is actually the release date for Hi, My Name Is Jonny, and it's going to be the first time it's been on vinyl. And I appreciate you spending that time with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So reading through all this, the story reminds me in a way of Daniel Johnston doing his tapes.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I got a bunch of questions about the tapes. And I know it's kind of like, it's old school now. I don't know if people are still making tapes and handing them out. I think I do know they're not.
The kids are into cassettes these days.
Oh, when I was working on the stage, sorry?
It's like a niche thing.
Well, it's become, people like collecting old forms. I mean, I think the records was the first to really make the comeback. And now other stuff sort of is too. And the truth is those mixtapes that we all made as a kid were so much fun. It was kind of a cool thing. And you can still buy most of the tapes real cheap. And you reminisce of having them. For me, it was in my truck. It was the only thing I had.
Artifact, something you can hold. Yeah,
that's kind of neat. So how many tapes did you make of one recording to hand out? Would you make them as you had a guy to send them to?
Well, I had a friend who worked, this was back in Chicago where I grew up. I was a teenager. I had a friend who worked at Acme tape duping or whatever it was called. And that was his job. So he'd go in after hours. He had a key and he would just take my master cassette that I gave him and he would like dupe off as many as he could.
So you stole the cassettes.
Oh yeah, it's stolen goods. But I'll go to Kinko's and make the covers. I'd pay for those. But the cassettes themselves were stolen. So I would just take as many as he could do. But here, I got you 25, or whatever,
It's so funny. So I love Raymond Pettibone.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, here we go. All right, Phil jumping on. I love Raymond Pettibone. And it's amazing how much money I've spent on Raymond Pettibone flyers that are from Kinko's.
Oh yeah, totally.
Isn't it? It's really cool. Yeah, I don't know. I like all that. So more with the cassettes. So you're running them off. You're sending them. I mean, I would assume, very safely assume, that who you're sending them to would be the guys that you like, that the people.
Yeah, right? I was a kid. What's up, Phil?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Dude, I'm sorry. I didn't.
All right.
It's all right. Not like Jonny has anything else to do.
Yeah.
No big deal.
We're celebrating his record vinyl release, and look at you, Mr. Fashionable Guy. Here, let me tell you who Phil is real quick here, and we're going to go back to what we were talking about, because for me, I think this stuff's really neat. So today, my co-host, who came fashionably late, is Phil Brewster. Phil Brewster has 178 IMDb credits. These days, he works mostly doing ADR and as a mix tech. I didn't know there was a new Candyman movie coming out, but I got to be honest, I'm kind of excited about it, Phil.
It's going to be a good one.
I'm kind of stoked. We were just talking before we started this. Him and I were chatting about horror films. So
yeah, I love Candyman.
Yeah, I can't even. I'm really excited, and the guy's in it. I looked it up. He's cool. He's coming back. So
okay.
Before Phil started working film, he worked with me, and we worked in recording studios. Before that, Phil worked at Sound City, where he worked with artists like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Tom Petty, Taj Mahal, and the Deftones. He learned under Rick Rubin and Joe Barresi. Phil got his break when he was hired at Can-Am Studios. If you don't know Can-Am Studios, they recorded a lot, if not all, you can tell me, of the Death Row Records stuff. He worked extensively with Tupac, Snoop Dogg, Nate Dogg, Lady of Rage, Danny Boy, Ice Cube, and DJ Quick. While working in the anime world, Phil was the chief engineer on Akira, Ghost in the Shell, Trigun, and Armitage, to name but a few. Phil's recorded talent in sound design video games such as Castlevania, Ace Combat, Dragon Ball Z, Halo 3, BioShock Infinite, Resident Evil 5, and Final Fantasy. I'm a fan of his band, Playhat. So, to catch you up to speed, my friend, we've been talking about Johnny's tape cassettes that he would steal and send out to his favorite artists. And we were just about to get into how did you select the guys you were going to send your tapes to? Was it more like you're a fan and you're just hoping that they really like your music? Or is it maybe an opportunity within this guy, or a bit of both?
Probably a bit of both, but I was a kid. I was like 17, 18. I was just excited and making stuff, and I would hand them off to my friends. I would, use it as an excuse to sneak backstage and meet people, musicians I liked. Or, I mean, this is so long ago. It was back when everyone had a home phone, so you could call 411 and be like, Minneapolis, give me, so-and-so or whatever, And if they're listed, they're in the phone book and you get their number. So I used to do it all the time. And I didn't think of it as networking. I mean, I was just like, I think it's pretty natural too, especially when you're starting out and when you're young, like to look for a mentor, whether you realize it or not. And that's kind of what I was looking for, was just validation and people to get excited about what I was doing. And these early tapes also were like really funny. It was more like Ween, like stylistically all over the map. I recorded on my 4-track cassette recorder. Songs were like, less than a minute long and just crazy cover art and, like Ennio Morricone and like, death metal and just like,
have you ever seen any of them pop up on eBay?
No.
I bet you, there will be. It'd be a kick. It'd be pretty funny. Like the Daniel Johnston ones we were talking about, they go for quite a bit of money because pretty cool stuff.
You never know.
What was your job? You're 17 years old. What do you do? What were you doing to get the money for the postage?
I probably stole it. I don't know.
We're stealing all of you. You were destined to work in the music industry.
I don't know. I can't remember having a job back then. You know what? I mean, that was probably later. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know where I got it.
Did you ever do any drive-bys and drop the tapes off so you didn't have to pay for the postage?
Wait, what's that? A drive-by?
Just to drop by their house and you drop it in the mailbox.
No, I did that once.
Honestly, I would think you'd creep them out, but nonetheless, they did.
Someone told me that someone told me David Lynch's address. This is years later. I wasn't a teenager at this point. When I was living in LA. Oh no, I think I was just visiting LA. And so I went to his house and left a CD in his mailbox. And then like 20 years later, his longtime engineer, this guy, Dean Hurley, mixed one of my records at Lynch's studio. And he's like, hey, I was looking through this big stack of CDs and I found yours from dated 20 years ago. So that was the only drive-by I ever did. But yeah, I mean, I just sent out these tapes just as an excuse to meet people and just meet my heroes, and it was just fun. And I would hand them out to my friends, and instead of just having like these like dumb little 4-track demos, I like made them into a cassette. You know, it's like at the time it felt like a big deal, like making a cover and having a thing you can hand to people that has like a title. And so to me, it was just, I don't know, I wanted to make records, so that I was just making records. You know?
And that is exactly why you've turned it into a career. I didn't go that path. I was trying to work and still be in the band, and
yeah,
so
everyone's got a different way, and you know.
Did you?
yeah, I mean, I knew that that's what you had to do. I just wasn't willing to do it. So
Yeah, I know what you mean, but like for me also, like I liked performing, but I didn't want to like do the grind of like, you know, playing to 2 people and like having a mailing list and like trying to really stoke it or whatever. So I always avoided that. So I guess even though I didn't consciously really think of it as networking, it was in a way, because I was really hoping that, I mean, the main thing was just like, this is fun. I want to meet cool people. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I was like, God, I hope someone can like just pluck me out of, you know, obscurity and like.
dude, I mean, that's really smart, because I mean, that other path of
Yeah.
playing in front of 2 people at like some tranny club, which that really that was my first show with my band Playhat, which,
yeah,
you know, it was an after hours tranny place, and before that it was a theater.
How old were you?
Dude, I was a grown-ass man. There's no reason why. Like I would love to say, oh yeah, I was 15. No, I was like probably 23, 24.
Wow.
Something like that.
I've played those too.
Yeah.
So,
and
sorry.
yeah, and it's like one of those things, you show up and you're like, oh shit, I didn't know it was this.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've done a lot of those.
Yeah, I mean, I've played for no one in the audience, like the sound man walks out of the room and even his dog walks out of the room.
Oh, rough. I saw who's it? Cry Little Sister. I think he came through the studio, didn't he, Phil? It's Gerard. You know, Cry Little Sister from the vampire film Lost. Gerard McCann, maybe.
I don't know.
Great.
I remember.
I think Keith
Gerard. I remember first name. I don't remember last name.
Gerard,
but I do remember.
But he did Cry Little Sister, and he asked.
Lost Boys? Is that the?
Yeah, from the Lost Boys, right? I think Keith Forsey had something to do with it, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Anyway, so he asked me to come, and I went to go see him play, and I walked in like halfway through the song. I'm thinking, oh crap, you know, because it is a great song. And then he played it again at the end, the same song, and I was like, wow, I've never seen anybody do that on the stage before, and there was nobody there. There wasn't a. I felt so bad, but I didn't get to hear this kick-ass song. That's the other side. I hear this great song by myself. You know, it was cool. Yeah. So from the audience side, it's neat. You know, it's interesting. So having been on the stage, all of us here at various stages, I had a lot of these demos and stuff thrown up on the stage, and I would try and listen to them maybe on my day off, and they always sucked.
Yeah,
they were always awful. Just I wanted so bad one of them to be like, hey, you know, Brett, you know, check this out, man. It's these guys actually, and they suck. That's
one reason why I made mine funny. It was partly just because that's how I was when I was, you know, 17.
So funny, like how, like you're doing like a comedy skit before the song, or what do you?
Just like,
I mean, the names of the songs were hilarious.
Say what?
The names of the songs were hilarious.
Oh yeah. Yeah, just like shit. I can't even. You know, like I did a version of Jingle Bells that was sort of like a 40s swing version, but it would like quote, you know, Stone Cold Bush by the Chili Peppers, and it would have like 96 Tears quoted in there, and just like lots of musical sort of in jokes and you know, like whatever. I'd speed up the tape and sound like a leprechaun and sing like
cool. I mean, you're trying to make your path, but you're also enjoying yourself the whole time.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool, man. All right, so I'm intrigued because both of you guys have worked with a few of the same people, and I'd love to hear, you know, different reactions, maybe different stories on the same guys. The most obvious to me, well, actually, there's a couple. So Phil here worked with Frank Black. He's obviously like instrumental in making your career. This guy was a pivotal moment in your life.
Yeah.
And what about you, Phil? Did you get him coffee or?
I got him coffee, and he'd come in every day with a with like, I think it was like 3 lottery tickets, and he'd give me like 3 lottery tickets every day, and he was just like one of the sweetest guys. And then and I was like, I was just a runner and everything like that, so it's not like, I didn't think he would remember me. And then probably like 3-4 years later, we're rehearsing at the same place right next door, and it was like I'd seen him the following week, and it's been like 4 years.
Yeah, Charles is so down to earth.
He's an amazing Lyle Workman. He was in the band at the time. And
when was this? Like mid-90s?
Yeah, it was like 93, I think. 93,
okay.
94, somewhere around there.
That was just before we met.
So how did it transpire? You send the tape. Lo and behold, some guy who's probably on your top, I don't know, 5, top 3, maybe number 1, he actually gets back to you. What did you do? Did he call you? Exactly. Or how did it happen?
How it happened was I called up Reeves Gabrels, who he plays in The Cure now, but back then, I was a huge fan because he played in Tin Machine, Bowie's band that he had with Reeves and the Sales Brothers. I still love those records. And that I was just a huge fan. I found him in 411 and we became friends. I started sending him tapes and he was really cool. I ended up moving to Boston and he would introduce me to, the whole scene, and was very, very supportive and encouraging. And he knew that I was a huge Pixies fan. I think the Pixies had just broken up and he hadn't announced he was Frank Black yet. But I was like, can you get my stuff to Frank or, Black Francis? So yeah, sure. So it took a number of months, but like finally, I forget. Like I remember Charles called my house and talked to my mom for like a half an hour before he ever talked to me. He's like, "Hey, your mom's really nice," And afterwards, like, Charles is wonderful.
Yeah, that's the way he is. Like he's so awesome.
He had all these lottery tickets he wanted to give me. And we became friendly. Like I went to go see him when the first Frank Black record, when he played the Vic in Chicago. I went and said hi, and put his arm around me. It was like really encouraging and super cool. And I guess like a year later, or I forget the timeline exactly, but anyway, he got me hooked up with his manager at the time, Ken Goes, who had been the Pixies manager too. So Ken took me on as a client, and I flew out to LA, and Charles produced a demo. Nick Vincent played drums. He was the Frank Black drummer at the time. And it was an incredible experience. Totally incredible. Like I was out there 10 days and he really taught me how to sing, and just really instrumental in not so much the arrangements. There was 1 or 2 songs where he helped with arrangement, but it was really more just about like drawing out, I was in a lot of ways, I was very shy and very inexperienced, especially with singing. And he really coached. I mean, it kind of blows my mind, really. It's like I sort of learned how to sing from Black Francis. Like he taught me, At the time, I mean, I'm forever a huge Pixies and Frank Black fan, but you know how it is. Like when you're 18, 19, like, fuck, man. Like he was just the ultimate. And the fact that he was interested and was like so encouraging and really demonstrative of like how much he loved what I was doing was just like, it was just absolutely mind blowing and beyond thrilling. And to fucking have his manager, take me on and produce a demo, and then, got signed by Rick Rubin just off of the demo tape. I didn't have to play or anything. And it was just like a storybook, incredible experience. But I mean, that's how I met. That's a long-winded story of how I met Frank Black. Was just
cool.
But no, that's amazing. That's like, you make that happen. Like,
yeah, they made
all those things. It's like, people will look at that story and go, oh, he's one lucky guy. Dude, no, that's not luck. I mean, that's some good fortune and talent.
Yeah.
But that's like going way before there was the internet and stuff like that. I mean, because it's so easy now for kids to do it.
Yeah.
But going out and taking that initiative to carve that path, and then go off and have like, one of your idols basically, actually like it. That right there would have freaking floored me,
Yeah. And there was
It
nothing
just stopped
really
there. But you were able to. It all takes hard work, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. Everybody just goes, "Oh, you just have to be lucky or talented," and it's like,
you know
no.
what? Like when you really love something, when you're like obsessively in love with something, like it doesn't feel like hard work. It's just like I'm into it. Like, oh, 16 hours passed. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like
I mean,
I was
when I'm
just
doing a
so,
music session,
especially back then, you know how you have like that teenage obsession with music where like really nothing else matters but music. I mean, that's the way it was for me anyway. But like, you know, as you get older, like there's kind of branches out or whatever. But like, I still love it and
Still just
passionately,
sitting
but
here
it's
thinking
different. Like,
he's
so you're like 18, like all I cared about was like Tin Machine, Tom Waits, like the Pixies. You know, all I wanted was to like to be part of that and to have some kind of validation and just to be in the club. And you know, it was I mean, in retrospect, yeah, it was drive or whatever, you know, tenacity and blah blah blah. But at the time, it was just like, oh, this is fun. Like I can talk to Reeves on the phone, and like he'll tell me like Tin Machine stories, and like wow, like Charles is, you know, we're talking about, you know, or you know, whatever, like you know, just talking about stories and like you know, spending the 4th of July over at Joey Santiago's, and it's like, whoa, I'm half the Pixies. Like, this is wild. You know, it wasn't like career manipulation or any kind of like, you know, conceived thing I was trying to do. I was just like, this is fun. Like, let me do more, you know?
so funny because I seriously, I'm hearing you tell me that, and I'm like, I forgot.
Yeah,
Like, I forgot on how much I loved to play.
totally.
You know, like you end up,
Yeah,
you know, it's like I miss, you know, I see like a lot of my friends where they just, even that were in my band, like that have given up music altogether.
sure.
How can you do? Like to me, it's still part of my life, even though I mostly work in movies and TV. I'm still mixing albums and stuff like that, and just because I love it. And I
Yeah,
could sit down, like seriously, like you know, 16, 18 hours. I will not piss for like 10 hours
yeah,
and not even realize it that I even had to pee.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, and that still happens to me today. But as far as music, it was just like, wait a minute, I was so passionate, like as a teenager in punk, and I was totally into The Cure and stuff
Yeah.
like that, that it was so focused. I missed out on a lot of stuff. Like I missed out on Metallica when
Yeah.
Metallica, you know, was doing all their great stuff because that didn't really fit my,
Yeah, sure.
So now it's great, you know, as being older because now I'm like going back and discovering like Iron Maiden and stuff like
Well, the
that.
world's so radically different now too than when we were coming up. It was very much a lot more segregated, and there was less access to things. And you know, I mean, when we were all coming up, it was just like there's MTV and there's the radio and there's Rolling Stone and maybe a handful of other magazines, and then there's the underground if you're into that. But really, it was just like now, you know, you look at Spotify or YouTube, like you know, I mean, I've got teenage kids and they are into, especially my son, like just into 1,000 different things. You know, that I was always into lots of different stuff, and I was super curious. I could go to the library or just like listen to my dad's record collection or whatever. But you know, now it's just very different. Like there's no real mainstream or zeitgeist. It's just like this big explosion of everything all at the same time. You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't be possible to have, you know, Nirvana, Nevermind, or whatever, where it's just like this one thing that's so not cataclysmic, but like they're just such a huge, you know,
I mean
explosion of culture.
yeah, we haven't had anything like that. I can't really since
Well,
everybody
yeah,
really became like YouTube and all that type of stuff. I mean, I think with the last time that we had like a kind of a culture, it was the new metal Limp Bizkit type thing. But other than that, I mean, there's you know some of like the other like the emo shit maybe,
mm.
but the thing that I don't understand is we've been in war for like 20 years. Why aren't there more like bands that are like because music is always told as history.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden we get to, 20 years in war, and what we had Rise Against is the only one that I know, who wrote an amazing song about it. And I'm like, where's the storytellers nowadays?
No, I know what you mean. It's hard to like. I'll keep up with like what's happening, but it can be really overwhelming. And part of me misses like the big push. Like it was annoying at the time, but there's also something kind of cool about you hearing a song 1,000 times until you finally actually dig it.
Yeah.
Because now there's just like and one thing that's so radically different now than it used to be is that everyone has access to making pretty much studio quality sounding recordings and uploading them, and everyone can do it, which is good and bad.
Yes, it's bad. I mean, no, it's good.
It's good. I mean, it's good.
It's bad if it's what you do for a living. No.
I mean, it's just like it's great that human beings can like express themselves so easily with so much cheap technology, and it sounds cool, and you can do so many creative things. But as a performer and just as a fan, it's just like Jesus, man. There's like I think in the '60s it was like 1,000 records a year would get released, and now it's like 1,000 a week or something.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. I mean,
so much stuff.
Yeah, I have not a clue anymore it's been a while since I've played gigs and stuff, and it's only been like maybe 5 years, but taking that much time off, I'm like, do people even? Obviously, people still don't go to shows now.
Yeah.
But I like think of now. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be 47. I'm like, I can't ask any of my friends to come out to a club or whatever, because
friends.
Because they're friends. I don't have fans.
Yeah.
So you have fans and friends, I'm sure.
A little bit of both.
So we're not going to need Rick Rubin's anymore because we can do it at home, is what you guys are saying?
No, not at all. Yeah.
So explain to me then a couple things. So Rick Rubin, what makes, if it's so accessible, what is the part where a guy like that, a heavy hitter, comes on board to do what we cannot do? And I'm not talking about the connections and stuff. I'm talking about the physicality of actually putting it together at your house.
Like how is it different having Rick Rubin produce a record than doing it yourself?
Yeah, I mean, that guy, it's obvious some of the answers, but the guy's done it a lot. He's incredibly talented and all that kind of jazz. But I mean, I think that even if it is already, it's so accessible, we still need, we need you guys, Phil. We need you guys to do it. So I don't see it completely taking over.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's still the bigger bands that have budgets still make albums in studios, and it's the lower stuff that that just doesn't happen anymore, which is great because I mean, look, I've got a studio at home that to be able to do what I could do at home, I would have to go to like Can-Am or Sound City. I'd have to go.
Pros and cons. Like it's nice to be able to record a vocal or do an overdub, like when you just have the idea and just go turn on the computer and do it. But there's something also cool about having the pressure in a good way when you're paying for it and you're just like very, very focused, and time is very you're very aware of how much time you're using.
And
I just don't have the money to make records in a studio right now.
I mean, the one thing I do ones at home and stuff like that, but the thing that I like, even as an artist, that I like about going to a studio is just it's purpose built.
It's true.
That part is just the ease of everything. I mean, you walk in, everything is set up. You're ready to go as soon as you walk through the door. I mean, really,
it really depends on just your approach, though, because look at Billie Eilish. She makes her records in her fucking bedroom.
Yeah,
and there's plenty of people that have wasted millions of dollars in the studio, like not being focused at all. I think it's just all up to the individual and how you approach whatever situation you're in, really.
Yeah, they're all different styles.
Yeah,
all different personalities.
Yeah, I just want to hear something genuine. Just I don't care if it's on a computer or Rick Rubin produced it or whatever. Just give me something
Fresh.
you actually mean.
Did you feel that way when you were doing the stuff at Death Row? I mean, it was definitely innovative, and I would think fresh.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things that I it was hard because you're like caught up in the moment, and it was like a really surreal type of chaotic, like where I don't know if you've ever had that feeling where everything is still going on, and but you're not really there, and you're just kind of like navigating through it. There was
Yeah.
a lot of that, where there's like a fight going off over here, and there's another one over here, an argument over here, and then somebody's trying to do vocals, and you're just kind of like going, what the
Yeah.
like, and that's like real stuff that happened. But I did know, as once when I was started engineering there, because I started as a runner second, and then all of a sudden engineers don't show up, or they show up, look in the room and say, no, I'm out of here, and then it's all okay, who could do it? And it's like, okay, I could do it.
There you go.
All right, I guess you're an engineer now.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you work at Sound City?
Yeah, I used to work at Sound City back in 93.
Cool. I recorded there once in 96, just one day.
And it still smells the same.
I'm sure.
I'm sure you could put as much paint on the walls, it was still, but I love that place.
For the Wildflowers record?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's one of my favorite records of all time.
Yeah, the record that, I mean, it was great because when my very first day in the studio was at Sound City, and I'm walking in, and I started off as a bass player, and obviously during that time, dude, Flea was the reason why I'm a musician, and Chili Peppers were doing One Hot Minute, and I've got Flea, with this bass slapping it, going right, and I'm like, I can't. This is happening, I mean, at such a different level than like having your idol go, I really love your music and stuff like that. I was just like blown away. But inside, I'm like, it's cool,
Oh yeah.
But inside, I'm like, holy shit! Like, if you could, I'd be really embarrassed if anybody got to see what's going on in my head. I'm screaming.
I think everybody probably feels that way. I lived in LA for almost 16 years, and I had like, it's just like it took me a while to realize, but it's a town like anywhere with people just doing stuff, but like the people that live there, it's people that you grew up listening to, a lot of them. So I had so many experiences like that. Like, I can't, oh my God, it's like playing with whoever, and it's like, wow, did you see them walk by? I think it was Billy Idol, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I mean, and I realized, around that time that I started engineering, and dude, we had everybody from that time period went through the studio, like in hip hop and R&B, and it was like, I came up with the conclusion back then. I'm like, dude, this is like Motown, like the golden era of Motown, but for hip hop. And I wasn't really into hip hop at the time. I liked hip hop a lot better than R&B. R&B, I was like, gave me a headache.
Yeah.
And
how'd you get involved with Death Row? Like, how'd you hook up with them?
I went to school and made friends, when I was going to school for engineering. And my buddy, Patrick Shevlin, he went to Can-Am, and I went to Sound City, because they kind of help, get you jobs and stuff like that. So I actually got hired on at Can-Am at the same time as I got hired on at Sound City, but I decided Sound City because it was a rock studio.
Yeah.
Over, so that was like my first. So he was over at Can-Am, and I was over at Sound City, and I'd moved after a year. I'd moved back home to Georgia, and then came back, and the owner still remembered me and was like, yeah, you want a job? Yeah, Patrick said that you want to come back. He's like, when can you start? And I'm like, I could be there Monday, and so packed up my car and drove cross country and
moved to Beverly.
Yeah, and then it was like I wasn't quite ready, but you know,
well, nobody is.
Yeah,
LA is a culture shock. There's nowhere else like it. It's
yeah. And I just remember walking into that studio and having like this huge guard. He was a cop. He was like at least 6'5", and just huge. And he's just like, "You won't last a week." and that's like the worst thing to ever say to me is like, because I will prove you wrong. And I will you can put me through anything. I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And I was just like, he was still there at the last thing. I'm like, dude, you made me put up with all this shit just because you said that. If you hadn't said that, I probably would have quit in a week.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, it was like totally different vibe. You know, you're going from like this really cool chill, you know, with, you know, you more of a family atmosphere to a really hostile. But then there was like times that you do like, you know, when you're making a record with somebody, you do become a family. And there's, no matter how hard you are, like, you know, if you're working with, you know, Tupac, even though there's chaos going on and stuff like that, there's still a connection because
it's a very intimate experience in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I would say I had just as many, if not more, great experience as a runner, you know, interacting with the artists than I even, you know, as an engineer where you're, you know, like, it was always cool. That's the one thing that I always loved about, you know, recording and being in the music industry and recording bands is like, dude, it was great. You got like a whole new family for a month. And then, you know, then you get another family. And hopefully you keep in touch with the other family. But if you don't, it's all right. You're consumed with this family now.
Yeah, so like, I mean, I know from a roadie perspective, yeah, you've got your family, and then you move on to the next tour. But if you're doing a record together as a musician, I would think it'd be like more of an intimate experience. Like you guys would care more about each other than us asshole roadies really do, maybe. But
I mean, you're still making a record. You're not like, you know.
Well, I don't mean you're like throwing on your lingerie together. What I mean is you're not grinding.
Yeah, we're not going that far. What I'm meaning is like
you're working together.
If the guy's playing drums for you, well, maybe your next record is it a different vibe, so you go with a different drummer, or you know, how do you choose who you want to keep in your family?
Oh, I mean, for me, I just play with whoever's in my life, like whatever, you know, friends I've got and whoever's right for the music. And
so like the evolution of it.
I mean, it started out just me. Like I played everything on my first record, and then I had a touring band, like for that record, for the American record. Those were high school friends of mine, and we did some recording. That's who recorded at Sound City. And over the years, like, you know, I've put out records where it's like, you know, a band, and sometimes it's all me, sometimes it's partly me. Like the last few records, I put out 2 records last year. One came out just before the pandemic, and one I wrote and recorded during the pandemic and released just after the election. Those are obviously all me, just because out of necessity. That's mostly it, really. It's like, you know, it's just kind of like, that's one thing I learned from David Lynch. Just like you sort of like, you can do whatever you need to do, but within whatever confines you have. Like if you don't have any money, like you figure out a way to make it work. You know, I don't have the money to like record in a studio to, you know, and get someone to record drums really well. So I've been programming a lot and getting a lot more interested in that and better at that. I don't know, you just like you kind of follow your nose, like wherever the music leads you.
Do you think your guerrilla tactics of being a kid, did you do that with your last 2 albums? Were you aggressive on the internet with marketing those 2 albums, or?
Not really. I'm on social media and I'll post stuff, but you know how it is these days. Like everybody's shouting about whatever they're doing, and everyone's got an opinion. And
that's the problem. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. Everybody.
Hard to get anybody to notice anything. But you know, you just do your thing, and I mean, it's cool. Like you can reach people all over the world really easily now.
It's amazing.
And hear from people, and you know, I mean, I ended up going to I did a 2-week tour of Belgium last year, just before lockdown, And that came about because this guy liked my first record, years and years ago, and he just hit me up on Instagram, and it's like, it turns out he was like a really successful, he's sort of like the Ryan Seacrest of Belgium, like just like a famous TV celebrity, like reality TV guy. And I flew over, and he just like booked the whole tour and hired a little film crew to make a documentary, and
Oh, cool.
yeah, and like that never I don't think that would ever have happened if it were just if there weren't something like Instagram or Facebook being able to reach
And
people.
it's amazing now. So like even with this, most of the guys we're talking to I know, but well, I didn't know you. So and then Darren Paltrowitz introduced me to you, and I met him by probably Instagram or one of LinkedIn or something like that. So people are so accessible. You can write to so many people these days about anything. And that where a lot of us are at home.
You might not respond, but you can write them.
Well, it's a numbers game. If you write to if you send tape cassettes to 30 of them and you get one guy to respond, it's pretty good. You got one guy. And if that one guy likes you enough to introduce you to another guy, you got two guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just about doing cool stuff and meeting interesting people, and
I think from you guys, I mean, it's what you do. It's not like you could just say, I'm not going to do it anymore anyway. It doesn't matter whether it was.
Yeah, I tried that. It didn't
out. Hard.
Yeah, I haven't tried, only because I'm too scared, because I don't know anything else. I've never done anything else.
Stop. Keep going.
You interested in working on any film stuff, Jonny? Have you ever had any interest in doing film score?
I'd love to. I scored a short film with Maynard. He and Brad Wilk from Rage, Audioslave, they starred in this little short film with Ed Asner.
Nice. Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
That's really, I gotta look that up now. What's it called?
Sleeping Dogs Lie. It was
got a cool name.
5 or something like that. And I mean, it's only like maybe 12 or 17 minutes long, something like that. And I did the music. I would love to do more of that. I've done a ton of like little mini documentaries and stuff for commercials and stuff like that. But I would love to score a film. I love films and I love film music.
I can hear it in your music. You would be really good at it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, especially the last few years. I'm a big fan of David Lynch and Angelo Badalamenti and Neil Morricone. I love Bernard Herrmann. All sorts of stuff. But yeah, I love like any music that really makes you like creates an atmosphere and makes you feel like you're in a particular place or a particular mood.
So is Candyman suck? Are we wasting our time or what, Phil?
No, it's gonna be cool. Well, because
Jonny and I are gonna be pissed, man.
No. You guys are gonna be stoked. Because the coolest thing about it is, I don't know, if you like Jordan Peele and that style, which seems to be like the thing that Blumhouse is doing and everything like that, which I'm loving.
Yeah,
it's a lot of that, plus the stuff that you want from old school Candyman.
Yeah, I want to reminisce.
You're gonna get the reminiscing, and you're gonna get like
new
this
stuff.
whole new thing that it's gonna stand on its own. But you're gonna be happy. You're gonna be happy that you went because you liked the original. But you're gonna like this one probably better. You're definitely like it better than the original. But then again, I'm also a person who likes the newest Vacation with Ed Helms better than the original. So
they redid Vacation.
Oh man, you gotta see it with Ed Helms and Christina Applegate.
Yeah,
that thing is so funny.
Oh, okay.
It's become my favorite, and it's one of those things that we could always put on, my wife and I. It doesn't matter. I've probably watched it 100 times, and I've probably watched the original 100 times also. But
I listened to Jonny's album 100 times this week.
There you go. I'm waiting for my 5 cents from Spotify.
I'll listen to it again. We'll get you 7 cents.
Joe, are we going to talk about that mustachioed guy in the background yet?
No, my buddy. So I'm an art dealer. He's.
I was wondering. I'm glad you asked.
Isn't it?
His name is Pepe. I named him my buddy, who was really creeped out by it. But He's actually paper mache, and look at his mustache. It's like his whole.
Yeah.
But he's
Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and he's hovering over you?
So my girlfriend like had a terrible nightmare that he was coming after her with like a knife, and there's nothing she could do because he's not real. So
Well,
she
this was a paper mache knife.
had a bucket of water, and she like threw it at him, was what it was in her thing. But it's from the 1920s. He's from like the Day of the Dead celebration stuff. And I think he was a drummer because of the way he has his hands. I don't know, but yeah, he's like my buddy. I like him. Because people are like, you'll sell anything. I'm like, I'll sell anything. And they're like, what would you not sell? I'm like, Pepe, I'm not a slave trader.
Yeah.
He's moved to a lot of places with me. And it's great. I think she's still creeped out by Pepe.
Gonna have the deal.
Yeah. He's my runner. He's a better runner than I was for you, Phil. I guarantee it.
He probably pays just as much as I did. So
yeah, man. I did a lot of 3 years, I tell you. Jonny, it's really been a pleasure. I wish you huge success with your album and everything, all of your other endeavors, your re-release of your album, rather. And I hope your move to NYC goes real well.
Thank you.
New York is going to have another really great music guy on the scene. So
appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. Phil, thank you for coming late.
Sorry, guys.
Appreciate it.
Dude, it was great seeing you, and it was great meeting you.
Yeah, man. Nice to meet you, Phil.
Yeah.
Nice talking to you.
All right. Well, you guys have a great weekend.
You too. See you guys.
Bye, buddy.
Later.
Yeah.